How do you guys talk to managers without shaking or almost crying? I'm 28 years old man and my eyes immediately becomes watery while talking in meetings. Reddit comments. Sounds like anxiety. Essentially what it is, more than likely. At the end of the day, managers, good ones, want you to be comfortable and do as good a job as possible. It makes their lives better. They are not going to be hard on you if you're nervous at the start of these things. I agree completely. I had the same issue, and it was with managers I knew genuinely cared about my success, but that didn't matter. I'd instinctually blush and tear up, and only then did it become awkward. It was anxiety and depression. I've taken SSRIs ever since, and it has never been a problem. I had a lifelong problem of crying in front of authority figures. Turns out all it took to fix it was a low dose of Prozac. Maybe not crying every time, but I'm 22 and my entire life I've been terrified of teachers and professors, or other authority figures. Even nice ones. I hate talking to them one-on-one. I get too anxious to ask for help. I've screwed myself over in my educational career many times because I don't engage with professors. I failed out of nursing school and I had to have several meetings with professors to tell me about how I was failing. I still feel sick when I think about how humiliating it was. I cried my eyes out in front of like 4 different faculty members. Now I can't go near the nursing department because I can't face any of them ever again. From personal experience, it definitely is anxiety. I suffered with it until my mid-20s when I had a mild breakdown and 6 weeks off work with doctor's note because of this. It took around 12 months of colleague reassurance and conscious personal development to become who I was before. Since then I have continued to seek control, mindset, via Buddhism, perceptions and meditation. I now feel like a new, confident and almost reborn man. I'll stand up for what I believe in against anybody regardless of position and am headstrong with my beliefs. There is a way forward, however you find it. I was lucky. Edit. I'm now a successful construction manager responsible for health and safety, cost management, program, and productivity. I'm considered one of the best presenter in our division because of how I can control the crowd during discussions. I've also been told I can read a room like a book and know when to add in humor. Little do they know, before any big meeting, I spend a good 15 minutes in the bathroom trying to stop myself from shaking, crying, and vomiting. I can relate. I feel sick all day coming up to any presentation, can't sleep properly the night before, etc. Apparently I'm amazing at presentations. Same. Got told in a recent interview they were impressed with my confidence and am interesting to listen to. Little did they know it felt like I was going to vomit the entire time. This was me to a T, literally aced the interview for a job, but I really felt sick afterwards. The managers were all impressed with the way I handled the questions too. I do really well in interviews. Apparently I'm often told after the hiring process that I appear incredibly confident and I'm one of the best interviews they've performed. I have pretty severe anxiety, but for some reason, when I'm about to interview I'm weirdly calm. It's like I don't have to think about what I'm doing. I'm just myself and it usually works out. I think when I'm knowledgeable and sincere my anxiety lessens for things like that, but then I cry about having to call and make a doctor's appointment. Do more things outside your comfort zone. Yes. Do it more and more. It gets easier. I used to be like that. Now I'm a little too bold. I used to never talk and avoid eye contact. Now I never talk and leave before my boss has a chance to ask me to do anything. I'm so proud of myself. This is what I did. I started going places on my own, and now I'm totally comfortable with going to a concert alone and going out for drinks after with people I've only known for 2 hours. Yes, I still get nervous at times, and I don't think you can ever overcome that, but you can learn to ignore the discomfort. That's been my problem, not being able to find something reasonable to do outside my comfort zone. I asked my therapist for examples of things I could try, and he just put it back on me to figure out. Can't stress this enough. I had a brief summer job as a tour guide, and I got over public speaking, stage fright and confrontation after only 2 months. I still think of that job as the reason I'm not shaking scared at work today. Are they cruel to you? Typically most managers nowadays are actually incredibly friendly. I say that because I'm a manager myself and I try to be as personable to my team as I possibly can. My own boss even told me in a conversation about my constant paranoia that I'm randomly going to get fired like I have been in the past. You need to calm all the way down. There is not a soul within this company that does not think you take your job seriously, and as your boss I promise you that short of killing another person at our company you're not going to be fired. You need to for once in your life breathe. If it's just a matter of nerves, I would say interact with your bosses more often. I would tell you to even try to befriend them. Most people rise through the ranks because they are a good person. Chances are your boss probably might even like you. If your boss does not like you, my only suggestion would be to be beyond their approach. Deliver results that are beyond criticism. Don't give them a leg to stand on. I tried to talk with them, but I couldn't gather the courage or come up with subjects to talk about. They sometimes get really mean though. While my job is kinda secure and there's very less probability that I will get fired, I still can't take control over this. Everything you want is on the other side of fear. Keep in mind that managers are human. I would just encourage you to go for it one day when you're feeling up for it. Fear is the mind killer. I detach myself from caring about the outcome and I avoid getting invested emotionally in the job. I used to be really passionate about my job and go above and beyond. My office was more than happy to take full advantage of it and boost my ego with platitudes. But when push came to shove, they picked the stupid who always has a good weekend story over me because he fits in better when the big light comes on. I went through some depression. That's when a friend told me that work shouldn't be my life and I shouldn't weigh my value in it. So, no more. My value comes from outside of work. Now, detach yourself. Give you opinion. But if they don't take it then at it their dumb choice. What's causing you to feel this way? Are your managers typically cruel to you? Not cruel as such. But some of them are mean and disrespectful. If they cross any lines with you, like personally insulting you or similar, you could contact ours. Otherwise, it sounds like you might be suffering from depression and/or an anxiety disorder. How do you feel in the rest of your life, apart from this particular situation? I'm very comfortable with one-on-one talk with most of the people. But in big group of people like anything more than 7 to 8 people I just stay quiet, unless being asked something. So possibly social anxiety, then. There are things you can do to work on that. Therapy helps some people, or you can try working on it yourself after researching the subject. Careful with throwing diagnoses online. It can ruin lives. This can be so much more or less than social anxiety. Could be just a dysfunctional conviction. If it really impedes daily life you'd better get a form of therapy. I used to have the same with my boss. Used to block out completely. Turns out it's all built on low self-esteem and insecurities. Most of the time there's a more complex explanation for the things you experience. What helped for me was Google a lot on self-healing and social psychology. Know the flaws of the human race, what the illusion of power does to the mind and so on. I had a public speaking professor tell me this once. It's helped me a great deal. If you feel physically sick before a speech, your body might be pumping you full of adrenaline that you aren't burning off. The fight or flight mechanism is kicking in, but you don't need to fight or fly, so the hormone is just soaking in you. That can make you physically ill, nauseous, dizzy, lightheaded. You start to sweat and get the shakes. If you start taking deep breaths before your turn to speak, it can help your body process that unused adrenaline. If you have morning meetings, even better, you could go for a run first thing. Burning off a bunch of energy will help a great deal. He even recommended going as far as running laps around the building before you give a big speech. Think you need therapy, dude? This is what I was going to say. There's no one-off situational advice that you can receive that will fix this problem with managers and managers alone. The problem has little to nothing to do with managers, most likely. The situation you're describing is deeply anomalous and indicative of a much larger issue within yourself. You should talk with someone professional. The underlying issues are probably manifesting in other undesirable behavior or reactions in other parts of your life as well, and will continue to do so. I had this same problem, and when at therapy for another issue found my dad was the problem. Very detached and was always the person in the house who wouldn't listen to you and shout you down, give out spankings. I realized I would project that onto anyone of power, and over time I had to realize that just because I had a child-adult power relationship of fear there, it didn't have to transmit elsewhere. My boss was never going to spank me without hearing the full story, but in this case spanking is actually firing or shouting. Only sharing the details in case it stirs something in op, but I genuinely feel it's either a public speaking fear or that the job isn't for them, i.e. find a company with a better dynamic and managers who care. Comment and subscribe.